Guys, I am just gonna go ahead and make a short video for you guys. I hope you're all doing well. I know maybe some of you guys heard Gavin Newsom's speech about school starting up again, but most likely school won't start up again until August. Even like he talked about July, but the reality is think about like when we start, like the first week of August, the second week of August. So I don't know what it's gonna look like. There's a lot of ifs, a lot of things up in the air, and I am pretty clueless, just like you guys. So, um, as I find out more, I will let you know if I hear more. Anyway, so the topic that we're talking about now is the Renaissance. The Renaissance was a time of huge change in Europe, largely cultural. So, a lot of changes in art, a lot of changes in kind of how things were done. They looked back to the Greeks and the Romans and they were like, well, those were the good times. So they were kind of retro or just kind of looking back, kind of like how sometimes we have clothing where we're like, oh, look at those jeans. We wore those back in the 90s, guys, but now they're cool again. That's kind of what they did with the Renaissance. They looked back in the Roman times and the Greek times and they're like, wow, that was awesome. Let's make it cool again. So a lot of the statues, a lot of the buildings, look like they did in the Roman and the Greek times. In fact, they would actually take dirt and smear it on the statue so that it looked old, or sometimes even bury them so they looked retro and they looked old and they looked like they were done during that time. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of like we distress clothing. Um, the Renaissance had a lot of the artists that you may have heard about now come out during that time period. So think Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah, the Ninja Turtles were named after him, all right. And a lot of other people came out of that time. You also have Shakespeare, which we'll talk about not today, but next week. Okay. Um, the way that the funding worked for it was largely by families who had a lot of money because trade had opened up and people were making big money. So in Florence, one of the major families that funded the Renaissance were the Medicis, or the Medicis. You kind of hear them pronounced both ways, but the Medicis, they were a banking family. They were into trade as well, and they had a lot of money. The way they showed their money off, though, was by basically what's called commissioning artists, which means paying them for their work and then having art all over their city, having beautiful buildings, funding educational institutes, all sorts of things to make their city most beautiful. And so they could show off to other families and look how beautiful Florence is. And other families could go, well, look how beautiful um, Venice is, or any of the other cities in Italy. And it was almost, they were kind of like the mob or the mafia, in that they had a lot of power, they had a lot of money, they had a lot of influence, but they also did some things that were not kind of shady, right? So, but they funded a lot of people. So in the slideshow I have today, you guys are going to see some of the people they funded, or at least one of them. A word about nakedness. Okay, I know that sounds weird, but during the Renaissance, you have a lot of naked portraits, naked statues, and it was not considered dirty. It was not considered inappropriate either. It was considered like, look how beautiful the human form is. We will paint a portrait of it, or we will put it in stone and make this beautiful, detailed body. Now, in the slideshow I have, there is no nakedness. I make sure not to have any. But, like the David, statue David, he's 15 feet tall. He is amazing, done by Michelangelo. And I show you kind of from like the shoulders up in the slideshow, but the actual statue is naked. So, if you end up searching for any of these things, don't be surprised. Also, the Sistine Chapel, which I've linked, it's a really, really cool thing you want to take a look at because it's all painted by one dude. Um, and it's just amazing. But if you look at it and you zoom in, a lot of naked people in there, and this isn't a chapel like in like Rome, in the Vatican. So it's not dirty, it's not considered horrible, it's not considered something that would be considered, it's not inappropriate during those times. I know it's uncomfortable, I know we laugh, I know you guys laugh because you are 12 and 13, and that's normal to laugh at that, especially if you live in the United States. At that time, it was not considered dirty. It was not considered inappropriate. It was considered perfectly normal and not a big deal. So I just want to kind of give you a warning about that. If you're like, oh, let me see the actual statue of David. Oh, he's naked. Yes, he is. Same thing with the Sistine Chapel. Yes, there are naked pictures up there. So anyway, as we get into the Renaissance, that's normal. Anyway, you guys, I miss you guys so much. I miss talking to you guys. I miss joking back and forth with you guys. I just miss being with you guys, and I hope you guys are doing well. As always, please reach out. If you need anything, if you just want somebody to talk to. I know that sometimes it can be very, very quiet. I know it's just myself, my son, and the cats in my house. So it can be quiet here as well. And I understand for some of you guys, it might be very quiet, but for some of you guys, it may be very loud, especially if you have a lot of people in your house and you might not be able to get away and have some quiet. So um, let me know if you need anything. You're welcome to email me anytime or anything like that. I know it's hard. I know that this sometimes can be a little scary, but we'll get through it. And I'm looking forward to at least seeing you guys when we come back to school. All right. You guys have a good day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you later.